7 infectious diseases that changed history. Along with natural disasters, infectious diseases are among the top unintentional causes of human death and suffering the world over. Some diseases have left their mark on the human race, warping the course of human history in their wake. In certain cases, like that of the bubonic plague, population levels were drastically reduced for centuries afterward. In other cases, such as polio, the infection of a renowned individual led to the further recognition of a disease and the need for a cure. Number 7. Polio. Today, polio is exceedingly rare, with relatively few cases in the industrialized world since Jonas Salk developed a polio vaccine. Prior to the creation of a vaccine, polio was easily transmitted in an infected individual's stool or via droplets when he sneezed. Polio is commonly asymptomatic, yet when symptoms do present themselves, they can be debilitating. The disease is notorious for paralyzing its victims, requiring them to live the rest of their lives in iron lungs. Paralysis caused by polio cannot be reversed. The best known individual to suffer polio paralysis was former US President Franklin Roosevelt. Number 6. Syphilis. There are 4 stages of syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease that first appears with a benign chancre at the spot of infection. Secondary syphilis presents with a widespread rash and swollen lymph nodes. The bacteria then enters a latent stage before surfacing as tertiary syphilis, which leads to neuromuscular degeneration, blindness, and dementia. Syphilis has marred many famous individuals, including several members of the medieval papacy. In 1508, Julius II was unable to have his foot kissed by fellow Christians because it was covered in syphilitic sores. Syphilis also had a long history of inspiring worthless medical remedies, such as the use of mercury, which often left the infected worse off. Today, syphilis is still widespread, though it can often be cured with penicillin. Number 5. HIV and AIDS. Few diseases have carried the stigma of human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, which transforms into acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or AIDS. Scientists believe that the virus crossed over from primates to humans in Africa during the early 20th century. Yet the disease did not gain traction in popular culture until the early 1980s, when several gay men in New York and California exhibited strange cases of pneumonia and cancer. Its initial association with gay men led to the early name gay-related immune deficiency, or GRID. Paranoia swept Europe and the United States as individuals were unsure what modes were responsible for spreading the disease. HIV's association with the gay community led to the development of activist groups like ACT UP, helping to propel early LGBT advocacy and solidify eventual rights for sexual minorities decades later. Number 4. Tuberculosis. Tuberculosis, or TB, is a deadly respiratory infection that can take 2 forms, latent TB and active TB. Latent TB is not contagious, and one's immune system can often fight it off. In fact, 1/3 of the world's population has latent TB. In weakened immune systems, active TB can take hold. Symptoms include bouts of coughing, severe chest pain, night sweats, and loss of appetite. Number 3. Malaria. Malaria is a mosquito-borne disease caused by parasites that leave those infected with flu-like symptoms. Malaria remains one of the world's most serious killers, infecting more than 200 million in 2016 and killing almost 500,000. Malaria's common claim to fame is its possible role in killing Alexander the Great. But did you know that malaria and resistance to it lent a hand in the brutal transatlantic slave trade? There is no evidence of malaria in pre-colonial America, and thus its introduction ravaged native populations. This led early European populations to look to the people of Africa who were resistant to malaria if they survived the disease as children, to work on America's southern plantations. Number 2. Ebola. Few diseases have fueled hysteria quite like Ebola, which was only discovered in Africa in the late 1970s. Ebola, short for Ebola hemorrhagic fever, or EHF, is a virus that leads to extreme bleeding in humans and other primates. Symptoms can take several days to weeks to develop. They include sore throat, muscular pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and eventual internal and external bleeding. Depending on the strain, Ebola comes with a high mortality rate, killing almost half of those it infects. However, mortality rates can run as high as 90%. The deadliest Ebola outbreak spread out of West Africa in 2014. It killed 5 times more individuals than all previous outbreaks combined. Number 1. Cholera. At its worst, cholera can go from asymptomatic to fatal in just under 3 hours. Cholera is a diarrheal disease caused by a bacterium that is usually spread through water or food systems that lack proper sanitation. Although the roots of the disease were in the Ganges Delta in India, cholera has since spread across the planet. Every year, there are as many as 4 million cases of cholera, with more than 100,000 dying as a result.